Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. I'm taping this on Wednesday morning, the 19th of November. Man, oh man, I missed you all. I tried to check in with you a little bit. You know, I was away for Susan Lynn's conference. Time was had, and you all were there in spirit one way or another. Oh, so let's get back to work, you all. I am back in the chair. And no shortage of things, as always, for us to look at. Let me turn on a little more light. Let's see how that works. Yeah, that might be a little bit better. All right. Woo, what a day we had yesterday. Somebody on social media said it felt like we were being love bombed here in the US. And they were like, but I'm here for it. I was like, so am I. A couple of things that they rattled off on their list. Spirit been working me over this morning, by the way, you all, like notes and highlights for days of things that I'm going to look at for you quickly today. But check it out. So yesterday, you know, this was our list, right? The love bombing. So we had the judge ordered full PBS funding, right, for PBS stations. One, the Texas 10 Commandments law in schools struck down or blocked. Okay. Two, the Texas gerrymandering map. Three, and keeping in mind with that, you all, we're hearing now, Canks has been putting the pressure on many states, of course, but he thought he pretty much had Indiana, I think, on board. Indiana's like, our folks, our legislature is not looking like they want to go that way, that route. So, and I think Kansas is fighting back some, you know, pushing back, I should say. So that the gerrymandering thing is kind of sort of not looking too good. Love bomb us. ABC, the reporter from ABC News who stood there in front of MBS, Salman and Kanks, and said and raised a question like a reporter should, right? Like a journalist should, and saw how that went down. And she just, what's her name? Mary Bruce, like she catapulted to stardom like that on social media. They were like, no, girl, it's nice to see some of you out there still trying to do your jobs, right? So that was another thing. The Epstein files vote. We're about to get into that in a second. That went through. And then the Epstein survivors, man, some powerful, powerful women, and just all of that energy that we saw coming from them, that will not stop. They will not be stopped. One side note to that question mark. I know we've all been looking kind of like with one eye at Marjorie Taylor Greene and all of this, you know, sort of interesting stance that she's taken now. She's the new MAGA 2.0, you know, we're being led to believe. But I'm getting from that, you all, she's going to try and use some of the survivors who may, I'm also getting, but I'm going to look more into it later, who may actually start running for political office. Don't be surprised if we see somehow, some way, some more actual political involvement with some of these survivors. But what I'm getting is Marjorie, who, you know, come on now. Come on. There's too much. She would have to take out a op-ed in the New York Times apologizing to Jasmine Crockett, for starters, for anybody to really start, you know, thinking that she's had a change of heart. But politically, she's making some interesting moves. And I'm getting from Spirit that one of her objectives is to use this relationship and her being so outspoken on behalf of the Epstein survivors to her political advantage. And I'm just throwing a quick card on that to see if that's the case. Nine of Wands. I was your champion. I helped persist and see you through all of this. She sees it as Nine of Wands is a gathering of energy, almost like too much, but it also is a card of persistence. And I think she sees them as another and advantageous is what Spirit is saying, essentially, and justice, exactly. So that's what's up with her. Everything is about her goals. She definitely has some aspirations for 2028, but we'll deal with Marjorie a little bit later. But the love bombing, I'm here for it. Let's go, loving it. The quiet piggy remark, just, you know. Of all things, you know, of all images for him to use. And so, of course, Gavin Newsom's camp, who's been just brilliant on social media, and others have just like taken off with that. Like, Piggy, you that's really what you want to talk about, sir? Wow, big mistake in my Julia Roberts Pretty Woman voice, right? Big mistake, dude. Okay, so the Epstein Transparency Act, the bill is supposed to be heading over to Kanks. Kanks has said, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and sign it. But while I'm doing that, recognizing that has torn apart any kind of relationship, Mike Johnson's head is about to come off his shoulders, right? Because apparently he was under some impression, or so he's saying, that the bill was going to get amended when it went back to when it was in the Senate, right? And John Thune is like, I never told you that. I don't know what you're talking about. So Mike Johnson is tripping out. Now, how much truth there is to that? Let's check and see while we're here. Spirit, was there an agreement between Thune and Johnson that bill somehow, some way, was going to get amended before it went to Kanks for signature? Death, nope. Scorpio also, and we are in some really deep Scorpio energy right now. We got a new moon, I think, coming in Scorpio tomorrow. I got to get my act together and get on and do you all's the pick a card as well. It'll come, but I don't think so. This is about truth. Also, remember, Scorpio energy doesn't play when it comes to getting down deep to the truth of and the heart of a matter. You don't get away with a whole lot of lies and subterfuge when you're working in Scorpionic energy. So that was not, and the world. No, look, two major arcana, heavy ones at that. Death and the world, a completion. I don't know what Mike Johnson thought he heard, but certainly from John Thune's perspective, that was never a part of the agreement. The agreement was that bill was going to go as it was to Kanks's desk. So Mike Thune, Mike Johnson, I think, is trying to save face a little bit by punting some of the blame for all of this onto, and perhaps Spirit is also saying to appease Kankles, right? All right. So that relationship is seriously fractured. Not that it was ever that close between John Thune and Mike Johnson. Done, over with. The house of cards starts falling. All right. So that's one thing. But the other part is, so we're hearing, like, what is this really about? Is the plan, number one, we know that the DOJ has had those files for a long time. We know that Bondi gave the orders to go through and identify any places where Kanks's name was brought up within those files. Now, so does that mean we understand that the bill, this Transparency Act, there's some language in there that allows the DOJ to do certain redactions? If I'm not mistaken, you all will let me know in the comments. I know you will. To that allows for redactions, right? But, at the same time, the other thing we're hearing is that the plan that Kanks has said to Bondi, okay, so now you know the deal. I'm going to need you to launch a whole gang of investigations into certain people named so we can slow roll it. In other words, as many of you have heard, if there's an investigation ongoing, then that is just a justification for withholding the files being turned over pending the investigation. Never mind the fact that Pam Bondi came out some months ago and said, nothing to see here, people. First it was, well, sir, your name comes up in these files repeatedly. Then it becomes, but never mind. It doesn't matter. There's nothing here to investigate. But now quite flip the coin back over, and she's being told, you got to get some investigations launched to slow down the production of these files. Couple of things here. Somehow, some way, be on the lookout for Ghislaine Maxwell to come back on the scene, or at the very least, the transcript of her those depositions or whatever it was, those meetings, that little tete-a-tete that she had with Todd Blanche a little while ago, because I ran across a quote from her. This is Ghislaine Maxwell talking to Todd Blanche, who asked her at that time about high-profile men, primarily high-profile figures being named in the Epstein files, right? And this is a quote. She says that some cast of characters are, quote, in your cabinet who you value as coworkers. She's talking to Todd Blanche. Maxwell's talking to Todd Blanche. And she says, the cast of characters in your cabinet who you value as your coworkers. Doesn't sound like Democrats to me. And all of these investigations that are being ordered doesn't sound like Democrats to me. So what I'm asking is, Spirit, is that information that Ghislaine Maxwell provided, the transcripts, is that going to come back to bite the four swords? It's definitely going to get looked at. Because she said in your cabinet, point blank, people you work with, Todd. Not Bill Clinton, Bubba, whoever we want to call him, not all of that, which, yeah, that's going to come out. But the idea, and we know now Canks is saying that the Democrats are going to rue the day that they pushed for this because, of course, the directive is to just go after them. Here comes the moon, revealing what was hidden. And also the urge to take a closer look and to bring certain things to light. What is it that people were refusing to see? Check out her face, right? What is it that people were basically refusing to see, or that she herself, in trying to get her little sweetheart deal to go to Texas and play with puppies, that she was careful in her wording, but that is a quote. She said, in your cabinet. Spirit, are we going to hear more from Ghislaine Maxwell? The Seven of Wands, I think so. But they're going to fight it. I almost think that she may get called again or be required or requested, I guess. I don't know if they can make her, summon her back before a congressional committee, or I guess it would have to go through the Department of Justice. But somehow, some way, you all, this bites Todd Blanche and therefore Pam Bondi. Am I right about that, Spirit? Because this idea, and the Ten of Wands, it crushes them. Thank you. Because the point is, again, if the fail-safe that Kanks thought he had was to say, okay, we'll just identify and investigate and make a big, because he's already been saying it was only Democrats who were involved in this, who were doing these things with Epstein. It was them. And there's the Eight of Wands. Look at that plane taking off. Nah, the information is going to continue to come in fast and heavy. I do think that there is some tie to Maxwell as well, because talk about a list. Talk about who knows, right? In addition to the survivors who have said they're coming out with their own list. And MTG, Marjorie Taylor Greene, has said, that's good. I'll read it. I'll go on the House floor and read the list. I have no problem with that. This is going to backfire spectacularly, you all. The idea that, one, Bondi's being told you got to launch these investigations based on the names in those files, Democratic names only, right? When she has already come out and said there's nothing to see here, there's nothing to investigate. So which one is it? Which one is it, Pam? All right, that's going to cause a lot of consternation. And Spirit just reminded me, we already know that this DOJ has had a heck of a time finding anybody who's even willing to sign off on some of these investigations around, we know that the Comey and the Tish James cases are like this far from being thrown out. The Lindsay Halligan, for real, like the ability to find attorneys who are willing to step up and really go after these cases, any investigations, who are competent and anywhere near qualified. She's in a Bondi's in a world of trouble. She's in a world of trouble on so many levels with that. All right, and the other thing regarding how this information continues to come out outside of the DOJ's compliance or lack thereof, right? Now we're also hearing that the House Oversight Committee has subpoenaed financial records from JP Morgan Chase, Deutsche Bank. I don't know if I'm saying that wrong. Forgive me if I am. Deutsche Bank, JP Morgan Chase, and I think the US Virgin Islands, we're seeing that upwards of, I think the last figure I saw was something like 4,500, over 4,000 financial transactions from Canks to Epstein, over whatever period of time that was, right? So are we going to see, outside of the DOJ's production of Epstein files, are we going to see compliance from JP Morgan Chase, Deutsche Bank, and the US Virgin Islands that will provide this financial information? Who was paying Epstein the money? Who was making these payments? Are we going to see that? The lovers. I think so. And the Seven of Pentacles. Yep. And the Emperor. We know who that is. And the Hangman. I'm not going to ignore it because it came at the bottom. So it's going to be slow roll. Slow rolling, slow rolling, slow rolling. And JP Morgan Chase, because depending on some of these names that we're going to see revealed, it's more than just their role in their attorneys having to deal with what they can or cannot. Scrambling is the word that Spirit just used. Scrambling to, on the one hand, comply with the House Oversight Committee and subpoenas, right? So on the one hand, do that, but on the other hand, know what's coming as a result of that, right? Just ask, what's his name? Larry Summers? Isn't that his name? Yeah. He had to step away from the OpenAI board of directors. You all heard about that, right? More of it. We're going to see more of these hugely influential men. Boom, boom, boom. You got to go, sir. You got to go. And you got to go too. All right. The Emperor, I think that's Canks. JP Morgan Chase and Deutsche Bank and whoever else, the US Virgin Islands, they know whose name is going to show up in some of those financial transactions. And to what extent will the House Oversight Committee continue to go after them? Seven of Pentacles. We want to see it all. We want to take our time. We need to be able to review the money. Came in Pentacles with the lovers. Speaks volumes in many different aspects. I see this as transactional funds related to these deals where these women were being trafficked. I mean, there's so many levels of that. And decisions that they have to make, going back to that Hangman, how do we comply knowing that full compliance is going to implicate Canks? Bottom line, full compliance is going to implicate Canks. Will we see, Spirit, will we see proof of the financial transactions from Canks to Epstein? Will we see proof of that? Will we see proof of such transactions? Two of Pentacles, I do believe so. That's and money again, money changing hands from one to the other. And the Ten of Swords, it's going to tear people up. Because again, it's the proof of money being handed over, right? For somebody who I didn't have anything to do with them, blah blah blah, right? Okay, so there's that. Completely. But this is also going back to these JP Morgan et al. These places that knew all along. And now they're recognizing that they themselves, or at least some of their heads, are going to be implicated. And we have the Knight of Pentacles, slow, steady. It's already in motion. They've already started trying to figure out. Their legal teams have had no sleep, no sleep, because they're already trying to figure out two things: protecting their own self-interests, protecting those who, how do we explain this, right? Because, it's not like Epstein was some manufacturer or some tech head. He had one business and one business only for the most part, right? So what were the payments for? Like, how do you even begin to explain all of that Two of Pentacles? What was the transaction? What were they about if they weren't about some nefarious situations. All right. This is truly, truly got them spinning out, crashing out, spinning out. Yeah, and I think the horses have left the barn, you all. They have left the barn. They are all running around the mountains freely. We're going to see more and more of it, and there is no stopping it. There is no stopping it. And to the extent again that he tries and Kanks tries and keep that grip over the DOJ to try and parse out what or redact or any of those things, there's going to be other methods of information that or other avenues of information that continue to come forward. And Spirit just reminded me, we are also hearing, you all, that remember, Epstein was investigated, I think, in the UK, right? Am I wrong about that? He was investigated outside because he had properties. He was investigated, in other areas where they too have their own records and their own files around him. So whistleblowers, let's ask while we're here, Spirit. To the extent that the DOJ tries to slow walk this and distract, will we get whistleblowers that come even from outside of the United States who have some of these same documents and files related to their investigations? Will we get information from other sources, perhaps outside of the US, with contents from the files? Will we get more information that way? Let's go. Ace of Wands at the bottom of the deck, right? You hang with me, you know how I feel about those aces. And coming in fire? Coming in fire, you all. Like, can't stop it. It's been ignited. And I think Spirit is also saying that is in, somehow, you all, that is in direct proportion to the resistance that Bondi and company might try and put up to try and delay this, right? Even after he signs the bill, and I think he's going to sign it. But he's signing it with the understanding of what then has to be done. And I think that's where we're going to see more information come out from other sources. And there's the star. Point blank, period. You can't stop it. Can't stop this one. We're going to get, so to the extent that there are excessive redactions and, we need investigations, all of a sudden, blah, 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 the information will continue to be provided. It's too much at this point. The momentum is too great, right? That's why we got that fire. The momentum is too great. It's been ignited, and we will see. I think we're going to see information come from other countries wherever else Epstein was investigated, and there's documentation and files there. We're going to see, perhaps not everything, but we're going to see some things come out. All right. And the final thing I wanted to look at, you all, is what an interesting video that came out, I think just yesterday, from, who was it on there? Alyssa Slotkin, Mark Kelly, and some other representatives, congressional people. I think there were like 6 of them or maybe more, who came out with a direct message for members of the military leaders, as well as the rank and file, that said, do not. Your oath is to the Constitution of the United States. You can refuse illegal orders. It is legal for you to refuse illegal orders. This is happening as we're seeing more and more indications around Venezuela, right? And trying to, get Maduro out of there. We understand that there are already talks to send him to Turkey. Somebody said Cuba. Trying to make arrangements for to get him up out of there. But the idea that the continued, the attacks on the boats, all of those things that are now, you've got the ICC and other entities that are now like, whoa, this is not looking good. We had that admiral who retired as of I forget his name, you all remember, but the admiral recently who said, when these boats started being bombed, and the Navy admiral who said, I'm out. I'm just going to go ahead and retire. I'm not going to, 6 of Swords just flew out. There's something around That message was heard. That's just the bottom line, what Spirit is saying. That message was heard. The message from these congressional leaders, all of whom are somehow, some way, former CIA, former military personnel, etc., but who came out with this unified message. That message was heard, and that message is circulating, and the meaning of it, like, do not put yourselves in jeopardy by following a directive that will come out later as absolutely wrong. And there's death again. Go Scorpio. Scorpio doesn't play. There's a anger. There's a simmering anger among especially military leadership, deeply resentful about even being put in this position. And they have a building up of anger, Spirit is saying, towards this administration for putting them in this position. Period. They don't belong in this position. It's an affront, is what Spirit is saying. So they got the message from those congressional leaders, and the Five of Cups, extremely disappointed and emotionally torn, because they are trained to follow directives that may in fact come from the president. And at the same time, how disappointing is it that now we're in this position? But that message was heard. Of course, you've got, and the Four of Swords, exactly, clarity and a time to assess. There are plans that are being put in place, you all, around what happens in the event of, right? What happens in the event of. Stephen Miller, drink of water, of course, came out behind these videos that were done by the Mark Kelly and Slotkin et al. He came out and said, see, this is exactly what we've been talking about. This is insurrection. The goal he keeps trying to, he and others, Miller and others, have been trying to put in Canks' ear is get ready to, we're gonna manufacture whatever we have to manufacture in order for you be able to invoke the Insurrection Act. That's what he's trying to, that's the game that he's still trying to play. But you all, Five of Pentacles, it ain't going far. There really is like a fork in the road here. And the military and military leadership across all branches of the military are recognizing and have. I mean, Spirit has talked about this for some time, that we were going to see, if not an outright revolt, judgment. Yeah. Right? Aha. Standing up. Listening to. That's why these leaders, these congressional folk, and more of them need to continue to speak out. Right? And because they too are in office. We already have seen some former generals and admirals and retired, well-respected military leaders. We've already seen them come out and offer their opinions. But these are lawmakers. These are the people who are trying to send out the message. There's going to be a price to pay for those who basically commit illegal acts. And it's not going to stop at just the top of the top. So don't get yourself caught up in it. That's essentially what they're saying. Not a threat. I want to be careful, for entertainment purposes only. Not meant in terms of bullying anybody, but just a cautionary. Your responsibility is to uphold the Constitution, not a king. Want to be king. So that's what that judgment is about, you all. That message got through to the military across the board, and I think you're going to see more of it as time goes on. All right, that, my friends. Oh, and the final thing I wanted to take a look at. So him grabbing Canks grabbing MBS's hand and getting all handsy with him, and just he's just the most wonderful thing. Now, we know that part of what is happening in Gaza, which we got to work our way back around to that, and I will be looking more into that. But we know. So, bottom line, The deal was always take it down to the studs. Take Gaza down to the studs. We're going to go in. It's going to be a resort area. We're going to rebuild it. We don't even know what we're going to do with the Palestinians. We'll figure something out on the back end. Israel's like, sounds like a plan to us. Who's in? Who's going to help? And so this peace committee or whatever that Kanks is talking about, but now we know Saudi Arabia is in the thick of all of that he's trying to bring them on, as Kanks is, to bring them on as a solid partner in all of this. Why? Because, it's about the money. It's about the real estate. It's about the financial transactions. But I am also wondering, you all, if Kanks is trying to pave the way, should it become necessary, to exile, to be protected, he and his family, all right? Because there's something there. It was way too chummy, and it was chummy beyond just the financial aspects of it. There was something else that seemed to be going on there, and we know already, Jared Kushner's relationship to MBS, Salman. All right, Spirit. Is there a plan that should the bottom fall out and and they're ready to take him down, they meaning, I don't know if it's the military, I don't know who would go after him at this point. It wouldn't be Bondi. She'd sooner toss herself off the highest part of the wherever. Let me watch my wording on YouTube, but yeah, she won't do it. But is there a plan? Are they trying to figure out a way to escape? Seven of Swords, stealthy, secretive, betrayal. Because I don't think the Saudis would do it. They want the money. Spirit, are you showing me a betrayal by the Saudis? Should Kanks and his sons, etc., the whole gang, try to go there to hide out in exile? Are you showing that would not work? The Seven of Pentacles. Not that they turn it down offhand or off the bat, but it would have to be really what's in it for us. Are you going to turn over all of your real estate to us? Are you gonna, what's in it for us? Because we don't really like you like that. And the Three of Wands, building a coalition, because what's in it for us? We'll help you, but what's in it for us? And it's going to have to be a whole lot in it for us. And there's Temperance. There would be so much pressure. That won't work. I'll tell you bottom line what I'm getting, you all. This feels like there's been an offer or some maybe even offhand comments like kinda I'm joking but not really. Would you take me and my family if it came down to that? So there's some offhand stuff there, but I also get that the Saudis really do want more global influence in the Middle East and beyond, right? This whole thing about giving them F-35s. And I also saw another piece that said there was an agreement, or at least an agreement in principle, to give them access to U.S. nuclear technology. Check me on that. To give the Saudis part of this little thing going on in D.C. with MBS and Kanks, that there are discussions not only about the F-35s, but about giving them access to U.S.-based nuclear technology. That's what this is about. The Saudis want what they want, and they do stand to gain a lot from this alliance with the U.S. But the extent to which it goes into the personal, we will also protect you and your family should the U.S. decide to deal with you. Be careful of the deals you make with the devil. I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to leave it right there, my friends. I'm going to leave it right there. All right, you all. Good again to be back with you. I really appreciate it. Please, if you know how and you have the opportunity, hype the video if you like the content, trying to grow the channel and, do the things, right? And always, we're going to keep our chins up, our shoulders back, and keep coming from our heart space, because that is truly what's shifting this tide and getting us the momentum that we so have needed for the better part of this year. We see things unfolding, and this train has left the station. It will not stop. Take really good care of yourselves out there, and I will check back in with you in a few days. Bye.